don't want to keep the viewers from, procrastinating, up in recording. Okay, well, tonight is a work session. We'll call it to order. We won't be taking any official votes. Tonight we'll be reviewing two projects. The one on Green Street, down from the American Legion, and a project called the Willows, which is a subdivision off of Pennsylvania Avenue. So the first one we'll go to is the project on East Green Street. So, staff, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, so if you recall the original plan, it actually had two buildings versus what you see today as one solid building. The original plan showed two separate buildings. The code doesn't require that. It requires it for the following application. That's requesting PD plan development zone. That has the requirements of having a limitation of total number of units in each stick. The mixed or the neighborhood compatible zone that's being requested here does not have that similar requirement. So it can be one building, it could be two, it could be three. There is no requirement to split it up. So this is one solid building, 3 stories. I had asked the applicant to also look at a 4-story option because of the location, knowing that the adjacent properties are rather tall as well. And again, I'm not afraid to say that I like density downtown, and you want people more floors, more people, more housing. So you'll see two concepts for the third. And I did look around. I was asked to take a look at other examples of other apartment buildings and concepts. I do have that if you bring up.
You don't want to share.
Yeah, we'll come back to that one. I just unless you want, we could talk about this first, I guess, and then we can show what I'm kind of found. So why don't we have the applicant just present what they've done, and then.
So thank you again for your time. I have with us project architect. She is actually behind all these beautiful designs. That's what I call it. You looked at the 2 different options, and I submitted in a handout more additional information to look into that. Those 2 options, they seem to be different. One has 4 floors, another one 3 floors, but basically footprint is the same. If you look through the data tables that I included in the handouts, I have 2 separate data tables for each option for 3 floor and 4 floor. And as you can see, we are providing 100% of required parking for both options. For the 3 floor, we will be exceeding required parking, which is also a good thing. When we decide to go for the 4th floor, we will be meeting the requirement of 88 parking spaces. We introduced the design, and I may probably speak to our architect, but if you notice, both of these options are very similar. We decided to mimic a little bit of historic town, and the adjoining building is a townhome. So those units, it's a multifamily, but each unit on the 1st floor has a separate entrance, and it almost looks like a townhouse stack. So it's gonna mix with the neighborhood a little bit.
Oh, so every unit on the 1st floor has.
Every unit on the 1st floor alone has a separate entrance from the street, and it has a main entrance from the
Interesting.
from the back of the building. Only units on the 1st floor. So that's kind of create a pedestrian friendly, not that commercial big stack building. And if you see it's designed in a vertical stacks, and it looks more like a set of townhomes, despite being a condominium building. And in handout, you have more drawings, more renderings. This is the back of each building and the side. And once again, the reason we have a project architect, because we are here to hear your comments, and we will make sure they address and materialize. So I don't translate the message. We will do whatever you guys like. So that's a look of the back buildings. once again, this stock is for the 3rd floor, this one is for the 4th.
What is the number of total units for the
So
three
for the
story?
3rd floor, we have 12 units per floor. For the 3rd floor, we will have
Should be a matrix.
yeah, we have 48 for the 3-story and 64 for.
So it's 48 for the 3-story, okay.
Yeah.
And what is it, 64?
64. And that information also in the data.
12 units per floor.
That's correct, but the math doesn't work. That's not continue wrong.
Might be there's a less on the first floor because,
Because
yeah.
of the elevator lobby.
Oh, yes, that's right, that's right. So I also wanted to share this exhibit that Mark asked me to put together. It basically depicts the heights of the building around the block. We have 4th Street, Pearl Street, Winchester Avenue, Sycamore, and East Green. This is the heights of existing buildings that are there right now, taken from the 1st floor, from the ground floor to the top. And if you can see, our 4-story building is not the tallest and it's not gonna stick out in the neighborhood.
Is that when compensated for the elevation or the grade? Is that what you're talking about?
Right, then, yes, that's
Why the
because,
different points are,
that's correct.
yeah, because you sit lower than some of the other things that are back behind you
That's
that are,
correct,
yeah.
that's correct. Yes, Winchester Avenue, it sits on the top, Grace Farms will be overlooking this building. in minutes. Also in your handout, there is picture of all buildings. There is a gymnasium building which is way taller than this building that we are proposing in case if you allow us to go with the 4 stories.
There's a what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
There is in the neighborhood, if you look on the bottom, on page 21, there is a picture of the building next block from this project site, the gymnasium building.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's, that's the old school.
Right,
Yeah.
so that building is way taller than what we propose to build in this location.
Oh, my gosh.
Um,
And it's kind of where it sits, it's a higher elevation.
Yeah.
On the ground. Set Jim back.
and just to refresh my memory, Mark, from a process standpoint. We're here tonight to, give some general feedback, but the idea is that we would recommend to go to public hearing where we would get the feedback from the public. And then we would do some additional refinement, because we're not really in the place where we're like. We can give them some big picture comments, but we're not like in the nitty gritty of like, well, we would like this or that at this point in time. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's kind of where we are process wise.
Exactly, so work session, this is just you providing comments, it's not intended to be direction of. Moving forward with those or making any type of or approving anything tonight or making any type of motion. So following this would be the public hearing, and then at the public hearing, that's where the planning commission can make its more direct requests for the project. And ultimately, that would lead to a recommendation from the planning commission of this project to the mayor and common council and their budget. So following public hearing, we can certainly keep that open and have another work session if we wanted to with the public. So to finalize the project, yes.
I got a couple other random kind of questions. Whether it's the 3-story or the 4-story, is there gonna be any like amenities inside? It looks like it's just apartments that you're not having like a gym, you're not having anything like that or a common room or anything like that. It's just a big apartment building basically.
That is correct. We didn't propose any, especially the gyms, there's next block, there is gymnasium and there is ability. That idea was to have a place to live and use the neighborhood to entertain, to shop and to use the amenities that already provided within the city limits.
They need a traffic light there, all these people coming in.
It would not warrant a traffic light.
I mean, they'll have to do a traffic study as part of the impact and we will look at all of that. Am I not correct?
We can request that,
Yeah.
yes,
I
yeah.
don't know that you necessarily, you might have to do some additional traffic calming or whatever, but.
The plan is going to extend, is it Sullivan? No, Sycamore Street.
Yeah,
So you're adding additional movement of traffic that doesn't exist today. So you're completing a grid system around the building. There's gonna be pedestrians, sidewalks on all streets. And we can certainly look at Green Street itself and what type of possible improvements along Green Street with this frontage as well, to kind of mimic what has been done at Green Street already.
right, and you can see on this rendering, it's not what you currently have on the street, you have a parking spaces that we are going to maintain, but we introducing a suggestion to put
Traffic calming,
islands.
yeah.
Right, that will delineate, it will be drive-through. I don't think we will put any landscape, but it will delineate and will improve the safety.
I'm kind of curious from my fellow members, Mr. Chair. In full disclosure, I drove around that neighborhood and looked a little bit. And just looking at the different elevations, I didn't necessarily mind the 4-story. When I was kind of checking out that neighborhood, I'm just kind of curious what everybody thinks. And in some ways, I almost think that the scale looks a little bit better 4-story than 3-story because it's so long. And like if it only 3 stories, it almost seems kind of stubby. For lack of a better word.
It's in a more or less a commercial area, we get cars. These cars are next to it, GM, American Legion, so to me, it's in more of a, I don't want to say commercial. But the height doesn't bother me.
It didn't bother me initially, so it didn't bother you as well.
The houses that are gonna be behind it, I mean, they do sit up higher. And there'll be landscaping between them and the building anyway, so the building won't be. For those houses, it's higher. It's not gonna, I don't think.
It didn't bother, the 3-story versus 4-story didn't bother you.
So actually, to me, I think I prefer 4-story.
I-
You're gonna have high density. Yeah, it's the perfect place to have it. I mean, you got all the necessities around you, everything's pretty close to walking distance. I mean, to me, it's not so much a straight residential neighborhood. Like the Willows is no residential. Right, it's transitional. I mean,
You've got
single
commercial,
family
you've got some
houses in the back.
residential, and I also think over time you could see some redevelopment in that neighborhood, because you have some aging commercial and
You know,
you could see some things happen over the years.
I've been driving by that property since 1987. And I always wondered when somebody was gonna do something, and I always thought a project like this would be perfect. But so what is the actual difference in units? I know you told me.
The typically what happens when you put something beautiful in neighborhood, it's a trap. People that live there, they start renovating their homes, the whole neighborhood goes out trying to stand up. And just one thing to mention, the corner of East Green and Sycamore, it's actually the lowest elevation of 2 blocks in any direction. Everything's low.
Is it really interesting?
Yes. That's the lowest
Elevation marks.
elevation marks, yes. So basically, this building sits like in the bottom of this giant hill surrounded, and it will be beautiful.
So it's a difference between 64 units and 48 units.
And 48.
If you look at
About 12 units.
on page 18 of the handout I just gave, there's
16 units.
there's 2 tables
I didn't
showing.
get to that page, that's not.
Yeah.
But looking at,
16 per floor, that's the number.
trying to look at this, when I first looked at it, I was looking at it on my phone. And you don't get the feel. And the 4-story jumped out at me, it's like, oh, wow, now we're looking at 4. But looking at it here and seeing the difference of elevation of the surrounding building. It doesn't really jump out at me.
Well, one thing we do try to do whenever we do a larger building like this, especially 4 stores, is kind of that magic number where you'll see a lighter color at the top, and it's just visually to kind of, so it's not so heavy at the top.
Oh.
That
It's
might
not a
be
peak roof
why.
either. It's a flat roof.
It's a flat that
Everything
slopes to the
outdoors
back.
And the
So it does have a slope
Yes,
to
it
the back.
gutters in the back.
Yeah, but like I say, it's not a peak roof at all. I mean,
Correct,
that's-
correct.
I mean, it seems on your renderings that the 4-story has just a different look,
Good job.
and the 3 stories seem
Yeah, do
very
you have the
plain.
3-story, could you
Just
put
seems
the
very-
3-story?
It just
okay.
seems like it's very plain.
Well, the idea, the directive from Bill was to have,
Alternative design.
yes, two ideas, 3-story, 4-story, and that had a different aesthetic.
I don't,
So if you
I don't much
Absolutely.
care, I don't much care for that.
That looks to me to be more commercial looking
Yeah,
than
that
that
does.
does.
Absolutely, I don't really care for that.
Just like anything in it, it's gonna be, they don't know the weapons and it looks like that, that's really gonna stand out.
I mean, like I say,
Because they're all older homes there, that's really
that's more commercial.
totally different architecture.
Yeah, Wendy, though, I will say, like, I had a conversation with somebody else about, like, you want the architecture to be respectful of the community that it's in. But I know, because my son goes to Ithaca College, I've been in Ithaca a lot, and I will tell you, like, Ithaca, you'll be on like their like Main Street, it's very historic, a lot of historic stuff, and then one street over where there's been a lot of redevelopment. I see a lot of that kind of stuff, actually, quite frankly, bigger, but I mean, Ithaca's a different city, but that kind of vibe where it's trying to be like, for lack of a better way, hip, trendy, but kind of respectful of the, you know, you got the brick in it. So to me, I know this is new for Westminster, but it's not like I haven't seen this kind of stuff in other places in a downtown area.
Well, I mean, if you talk to historic preservation, it's one of the things they hate because somebody tries to copy and put that into the building. Right, it's better to respect the historic nature than trying to copy it, because they just go crazy, historic people go crazy about that.
Watch it, I'm gonna start. Watch.
Okay.
I don't think, you know, and again, like, my feeling from our role is, you know, to kind of give you some feedback, but really, you know, we want to go to public hearing, get feedback from the community, and there might be some more fine tuning and all of that, but my gut is, I kind of like the 4-story
Yeah.
better than the 3-story. I just think visually I like it better. And I kind of like the architecture on the 4-story better than I like the 3-story.
And like I would rather live in 4-story. than I wouldn't in 3-story. Me, it just. A, it's gonna not look like any other apartment building in the city. The 3-story, all brick, very plain apartment buildings that we have throughout the city.
Like
I
the
mean,
white
it's something that's new, it's different, it's gonna be sharper, it's gonna attract, I think. Higher class renters and other apartments, it's just from the way it looks.
These are being sold,
You're
correct?
Yes.
If there's a plan to sell.
So this has
They're sold, they can still.
No, I'm with you.
the fact that the building is elevated is a huge thing. I mean, unbelievable, it's hard to find elevated buildings like this in Westminster, not that they don't exist. But you go to Pars Ridge, which is a condominium,
If that had elevators, it
and
would do.
if they had elevators, they would all be sold all the time.
Oh.
It's, you know what I'm talking about, though.
Oh, yeah.
So this is gonna be a really different kind of place, so it'll have a central entrance where people go into a lobby.
Is there a full
On the
plan?
east side, it looks like-
We do have a typical
I
floor
do
plan.
have a digital approach.
Oh, perfect.
It looks like there's only one elevator though.
That is.
Alright.
So.
And it's had a lot, we had to some.
So there'll be stairs too, right?
Oh, yes, two egress stairs on the other side.
On both sides, and they have entrances from exterior, this is the main entrance from.
So for second level, you get.
Yeah.
Right, and the first level, each unit has an entrance from Main Street.
Yeah, that was one thing we were trying to be respectful of, that residential streetscape, and there's a lot of multifamily row houses, if you will, but they all have that porch
Yeah, definitely.
entry off the street, so we wanted to be respectful of that and kind of continue that streetscape.
That's nice.
I like that touch. A couple random comments. And you know, I don't plot out apartment buildings like this, but is one elevator enough?
So we did do the calcs, and it is certainly enough for a 3-story building. For a 4-story building, I think It's 70+ units is where they recommend 2, so we're kind of right there at the,
So a recommendation to you all, I will say, knowing the marketplace. The elevator, as he hit on with Pars Ridge, is critically important to a big segment of people that are gonna be attracted to that building. So to me, if you're close to being where you would hit the cutoff anyway, I could make a real theoretical argument that from your standpoint, just from a marketing standpoint, otherwise, having more than one elevator would be a smart move. If you're doing, especially if you're doing the 4 unit, even if you're not technically required, I just think that you would be better off in the long run. And I think it would better serve the community, because I think Tom is right that there's gonna be a lot of people that are attracted to that building because it has an elevator.
No, I wouldn't be. I mean, I wouldn't move into a 3-story building. I just wouldn't. It didn't have elevators.
Yeah, and if you have all those units, I think that's one other comment. And my other question to you is originally, when you submitted something, it showed 2 buildings, and now we've gone to 1. I kind of like the idea of 2 buildings, but I understand why it might be smart to do 1. But can you all give us a little sense of what your thinking was with that and how you
Sure.
got there?
so that was our recommendation because, you know, a phased project is great in theory, but sometimes doesn't always materialize that way versus if you were to do 1 building all at once. It's more economical, that's probably the biggest thing. And if you break it up correctly, and so that you break down the scale of a large building, which is what I feel like we attempted to do, and I think that we were successful with it. I think that that's kind of the trade-off. But that was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, that building you mentioned, and it was my initial idea to go with 2 buildings, but when the architect tried to lay out those units, they were odd size and shape,
They
that
were
wasn't.
smaller.
They were
Much
smaller and they were not that great for utilization. It's almost, you have a lot of window, but the size of the room didn't drive together to make a nice use of that.
So it's just a question, I understand the efficiency, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
because having 1 building. And again, we're just reacting to the general vibe of it. But to me, with it being such a long building, you know, when you, after we get through public hearing, you come back. You know, keep in mind that, you know, that elevation is just so critical that, and I think it's important that it does feel like it's not like a monolith, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that it is now, but I think you're kind of, you know, in the right direction, definitely. But I think that's really critical if you're gonna have a big building like that you have some of what you already appear to be having going on.
It's hard to look into this drawing, but if you look on the side plans, the front of the building is break out, it has a lot of bumps up and down.
I noticed, yeah.
That's what makes
Yeah.
it look nicer and not that commercial way, you know.
What we also realized when we looked at the original site plan that was done by a civil engineer who just kind of laid out the footprints. I believe it was the same amount of density, but in order to get that amount of units in, they were much more narrow, and that's what drives what you can do inside is your window wall space. Obviously, you have to have a window in a bedroom in your living space, so it was very narrow but very deep. So it would have made the unit layouts very awkward. But these are more spacious and linear, if you will. We have more windows in the units, which I think would ultimately make them more marketable.
Well, you know, a place like this could get young professionals. It could also get people my age that don't wanna be in age restricted housing and they don't wanna be in a continuous living community. They wanna be on their own. And this allows it because parking is close and it's elevated. So I think it's a whole,
Well, everything there would be accessible with the elevators.
exactly, everything.
Everything could be.
Now, if it was just
We need
steps,
condos in Westminster.
this would
That's
be
what we do.
this would be.
Kingsbury and Pars are both that way.
I think we need condos, more condos.
Yeah, the only place I can think of that's age restricted is that place up off of, up in your house.
Bella Vita.
Yeah, and that's definitely, it's elevated,
That
but
does have elevator.
So I have a question, and this is just to see your thinking. I was looking at like where you do your balconies. Rear versus front, or, cause I see some of these is kind of like you have like a,
So what
how
I
will
took,
that work?
what I took from last meeting, and that's what I conveyed to our architect, no balconies in the front building along the green. That's what you guys want. I would love to see the balcony, but you didn't. So right now we can have, how it's called, Juliet
Oh, we
balconies.
did a Juliet balcony.
So you can see
Slider,
the
yeah.
balcony, but they're like 6 inches. You can open the door, you can look outside, but.
It's a slider with a railing.
Slider
Yeah.
with the railing, yes.
What do you think about that?
The balconies,
Yeah, I'm just curious your thoughts.
well,
I mean,
we've heard it both ways from developers. I mean, sometimes they're viewed as the residents are gonna use them as storage. And nobody wants to see a towel, beach towel draped over it. But it's a good marketing, and there's, if you get the right tenants in there, they'll respect that.
Right, the storage should be addressed with language in the bylaws that nothing can be
No, I
stored.
Yeah, but then you gotta enforce it. My gut is that I kind of like not having balconies along the front. Because your front elevation's your street elevation, and you just don't have to worry as much, I don't think. You're still gonna need restrictions because somebody could throw a towel over your Juliet balcony. But the temptation to do stuff like that is a lot less. Where even if it happens in the rear of the property, at least it's the rear of the property, not that it should be happening there. Cause I do, and like, if you have multiple versions, it could be somebody doesn't care about the balcony, but somebody does. Well, the person who cares about the balcony, they'll take the unit in the back. So I wouldn't mind the balconies out front, but I'm concerned about the aesthetics and how that would play in the long run. If it was more inset, I'd be less concerned about it, but I don't know that you can. Especially when they project out, I don't know, what is your thoughts?
well, if you've ever lived in a place that had balconies, this is just personal opinion. I'm not like hung up either. Looking at a parking lot is not that interesting. To go out and wanna sit and listen to music and drink on your balcony and be looking down at a bunch of cars, doesn't do much for me. Now, on the other hand, in front, you have cars going by and people looking and all that stuff, so there's two sides to it, but. So I guess what I'm hearing is if the unit's in the front, it really won't have a balcony. So half of the units, 32 units won't, 32 units will, so you can choose what you want.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're indifferent, it's kind of what.
I personally love balconies, but I took it from last meeting here.
I remember that discussion.
And we decided not to, but if you vote
I
for the
don't
balconies,
remember bringing that up, but I don't.
we will.
I
we
would
will
like the
reintroduce them.
You would
If
like
I
them?
lived in one, I think it seems like just a little apartment without balconies. If these are condos, you can put plans, it just seems.
You can have a
It's a
plan.
little
You
bit of
can-
outdoor space.
Yeah.
So do you like the balconies out front? Do you like the idea of
I
balconies?
like what's maybe, I like what you're
Yeah, you go along there, every house has a front porch.
You have a porch.
So it's not like they stuck the front porch in the back.
And,
That's a valid
and
point.
the Humphrey
balcony.
building, the Humphrey building has all these big porches on it.
But I mean, I think the idea of putting a six inch.
It's not like somebody's gonna put a big couch on there and that really changes.
Well, you
my
can have
outlook.
restrictions, that address.
Definitely would have a
Yeah.
restriction if we go with the balcony. We will have restriction for the back balconies as well.
I'll
We
like that.
we don't want the
I
bikes to
like
be
that.
stored there.
I mean, if somebody wants a unit in the rear to look into the parking lot, more power to them. But then on the other hand, the people in the front don't have that choice.
I like to me how they say if you're in a, I don't want to say confined spaces, I think they're place size units. But it's still nice to have that outside. That you get a little bit of outside by having a balcony.
I
I mean,
agree.
they say even if it's not very big, but something that you can at least walk out into,
Coverage, yeah.
stand there.
It's like,
Not 12 or 16 inches, or maybe a 2-foot balcony, something where you can go out. Put a chair and sit
I think they're 5.
have you ever been on
They're
a,
fine.
you ever been on a cruise ship? And that
No,
little
for
bit
good
of
reason.
balcony go out,
there.
all the difference in the world.
And you pay a premium for that.
It sold me
You
one,
want it.
it sold me one time. The first time I said I would never go on a cruise again if I didn't have that balcony.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that big, but to go out there and
Just sit and look.
take a breath.
Makes all the difference.
I think my only concern about the balconies is that it just doesn't, and I think that's where you get to play with the architecture and kind of figure out how to make things work. Is that it's just, the balconies are not so prominent that it's just like, looks like balconies everywhere, you know
But they
what I
are
mean?
recessed about 18 inches, because they
Yeah.
occur where we have to step back.
So I think if you're gonna make the balconies on the front and make them bigger, I think you might need to play with those, you know, your plans a little bit. To kind of, cause you don't want it to feel like the balconies are so prominent in the front of it, if you're gonna do that. And so I think you need to kind of play with some of that a little bit. And that it's not, you know, like a straight line.
Behind the
We will do that, and as you can see in the balconies in the back, you clearly see them. They're all modern, transparent, they're basically seam railing for the safety, but they do not jump at you.
It would look
Color
less
black.
industrial.
Color black huh, with these straws.
I think it'd be look
They're not
friendly.
very big balconies, but
No,
it makes them stand out.
Big enough, but
It just,
you should put a couple chairs out there.
yeah.
Yeah, I just think.
Relax, we can talk about it.
Bring it there.
The balconies would make a big difference on the front of it.
Yeah, so
So
That
we
thing
will
would not
just-
look, that was.
I think what they would go is just kind of like, don't take it personally, but doesn't be much for me.
I think what you're hearing from us is, I think you're headed in the right direction. And hopefully with some of these, you know, feedback, are we okay with one building instead of two buildings? I mean, I think I am.
Yeah, I am, I don't.
I have no problem with that.
And I think you're hearing that we're kind of okay with the concept of 4 levels.
And we definitely will calculate.
And I will, that's just,
that.
I'm saying that as much for your benefit as I just think that would be a mistake, and I just, I've sold real estate, so I just know if Pars Ridge had balcony, it had elevators, that was a huge mistake in that development.
And I know, especially for someone that's not an issue of getting around a little bit,
Yes.
absolutely. I mean, having 2 elevators, and I don't think they would necessarily need to be in the center of the building.
But you're probably gonna have them side by side just for efficiency and cost and all
Yeah,
that.
that would be, but,
Elevators aren't cheap.
well, no, they're not. And that's
Typically, we
maintained.
put them in one shaft.
Correct.
Well, I spent 9 hours at Carolina Village yesterday in a 5-story building, and they needed the 2 elevators. I mean, I had times, especially like busier times, I'd wait 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Now, I had a big art cart, you know, I had residents with walkers and everything, but then you could still have, you know, seniors like move in a place like this.
Definitely, I would definitely see like, you know,
I think
2
2
elevators.
two
Yeah, or do you make sure the elevators are big, or at least one of them is big, a little bit bigger that, because
ADA.
otherwise you're gonna have very unhappy people moving in.
So the,
And my other, just one other suggestion is stairwell. You know, my suggestion with that too, having been in a lot of like commercial and all that. A lot of times you see stairwells that are very cold and dingy and I would suggest, because there are some people that will take the stairs, that they prefer to take the stairs because they want the exercise. So I don't know when you're further looking at your plan from an interior standpoint. I know you need the emergency exits, but I could also argue it might be good to have a stairwell that functions, that is more aesthetically attractive. Because you could have some people that would prefer to take the stairs. I totally see that. And they're not gonna enjoy themselves near as much as if they're in like a concrete block, typical emergency exit stairs. So I would say, I think that's something you should look at too. Because the fact of the matter is, especially if you're going to 4 stories, maybe you have to lose a unit or 2. We're giving you that height, you know, we're saying we're fine with that height. So if there's things that you can make it, you know, I think the two elevators are important. And I would argue having a real set of stairs, because I do know people that would be living in that building, they're gonna enjoy, they wanna take the stairs.
Especially people living in India.
And I would not want something like this age restricted, cause I see
No.
people like you living there, people that are older. And I also see, quite frankly, some younger people that would be like,
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
these-
and I think it's cool to have that mix of the young and old.
Yeah, the two bedrooms are actually set up, that they're split, so you have the living space in the
Yeah.
middle and a bedroom
like
on
it.
either side with its own bathroom. So it kind of,
I was gonna ask you, so the going to one building really allowed you as the architect to design better units, better
That's
layouts.
true.
I thought the layouts in the units were awesome, personally. Because they were big and spacious and two bathrooms split, so you had a little bit of privacy for both. And that was something that jumped out. at me.
My one comment, and this is not again, this is a friendly comment, not something that. You build the inside, you know, this is not like what. Planning commission's not gonna fight you on something like, but I did notice the size of your bedrooms are very similar as far as like the width. And having done some, I don't have to go down my rabbit hole doing some architecture. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit, instead of just 10.5, to have a little bit wider, if you know what I mean, because some people like that, so even if both. Bedrooms aren't like that, or all the units are like that, I would tell you that I have. I'll speak, my mom was recently looking at something. And bedroom's not wide enough. Was that was enough? She was like, nope. Cause I can't fit my king size bed in there and have anything on the other, you know, across the way, cause I don't have enough room.
I think we have several units that are a little bit larger in size on the top of the lobby, right?
So I'm just throwing, that's a friendly comment, that's not something that we I mean, like, you know, we, planning and zoning, we care about the aesthetics and stuff like that, I'm not here to tell you, the size of your bedroom has to be 12 feet 6 inches or whatever, you know, width, but that's just a friendly comment.
We appreciate that.
So what do you see these generally selling for? Have you got that far yet?
We definitely look at the market analysis and we think that one bedroom with elevator with this type of design, it will be around 250 and two bedrooms 299.
How much you say two,
250,
They will sell like hotcakes.
and what was the 2-bedroom?
299, 300.
Yeah,
They will start as a base, if somebody wants to upgrade them really, the good amenities and granite, everything, that may drive a little bit, we'll have that option.
Those prices are not over the top at all.
I think the other thing that is, we talked about this a little bit. Some condos you go into and they have all this other stuff. That stuff you have to pay for. Granted, there'll be condo fees also for this because you've got to put in money for maintenance and all the other things, but you don't have to pay for a swimming pool, you don't have to pay for a tennis court and all that stuff. It's not gonna be part of it.
I
Liability.
can assure that condo fees will be here very low, and that's one of my, of our preferences when we do it, because the expense will not be that significant.
well, and I think, you know, I think, Tom, you were the one who mentioned, and I think it's true, or no, you did, about like, sometimes when you put amenities, too many amenities, and people aren't going out in the neighborhood. And the fact is, we want people to interact with downtown, because this is certainly within walking distance. I mean, you know, Maggie's down the way, you could walk downtown there, we want people.
Sometimes they don't even use them.
You still have the gym at East End, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
And you got the Armory gym, that's the city.
You got the Westminster City Gym.
So you got all that,
Yeah.
a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people walking around there.
And that's a goal, people go to the main street for entertainment, for activities, and they come home and sleep.
And I think you're gonna see over time, Covalent opened up a couple of years ago. You're gonna see more, as time goes on, you're gonna see more of that energy that's slowly working its way up Main Street. People
Yes.
coming that way. And I think this will be helpful in that.
It would.
And it will- and it will-
Make sure you-
And then I think you also, this could trigger some further redevelopment. Or, cause there's that little tiny shopping strip that's like right down from here.
Well, there's a car lot too.
Well, yeah, I could see somebody, like, if you have something like that there. if I own that little strip, I might decide I wanna upgrade that strip a little bit or kind of bring in
Is that
something.
off of Madison, or not Madison,
Well, the
excuse me,
next property
off
up.
of Bishop Street, is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about the little tiny strip, I think there's a Hispanic grocery store right there, right now, yeah.
Yeah, off of
Yeah, there
Bishop,
used to be like a little prescription place there at one point in time. I
near the
think
old
it's there.
shoe factory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is when something like this happens, you tend to, other things tend to come about
Yeah,
over time. You said something about.
I should have probably went first to show you.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I think about it, I should have went first, but. Can you,
You can still show us some other thoughts.
it's mine.
Well, just for them.
Well, I think what I found is gonna be fairly consistent with the discussion. So what I looked at, I tried to find some, and these are from, I think a couple from Ithaca, Alexandria. I tried to find more urban historic downtowns and architecture. And again, what you're seeing is not very different from what's being proposed.
No.
You can see the historic
Very common.
building right next to it, and then you have this more of an urban look. This,
We
but
just watch through them because it's kind of interesting to see.
yeah,
You want it to be
but one of the things it was brought up, Tom brought it up, this, one of the elements you look at for a historic district and trying to do new build is compatibility rather than contrast. In historic context, don't replicate, as was mentioned. New construction should be differentiated from the old, compatible with the existing. So a lot of this is, you don't wanna repeat the design, but you might wanna take elements of downtown, whether it's material, type of window structure, things like that, or massing. Massing's probably the most important of them all. So again, like I said, as I went through these, you're gonna see that, and the other element too, I found, a straight apartment project is hard to find in urban downtown. Most of them have the first floor retail component and mixed use, so you're gonna see a lot of these have that more of a base, like a taller first floor, because you have that retail component associated with it. Where this one's set back, we don't, and by the way, the zoning district doesn't allow for retail. It's only for residential. Otherwise, I think staff would have pushed having maybe like a mixed ability that the first floor could be designed to be commercial or residential. So as you're walking down the street, you might walk by the door that's a residence, and the next one might be a commercial shop or something, but again, this zoning district doesn't allow for that commercial component.
All these commercial things up there, you can't have commercial?
Not in this zoning district, the zoning district that they have to apply to this.
It's not the zoning district that we're pulling down on it, because remember, we're kind of pulling the zoning district down on top of it, and it does not. But I don't know that that's the end of the world in this particular location, in this particular scenario. If it was on Main Street, I'd feel very different, but I think I'm okay here.
More of
But go on.
But you, like I said, you're gonna see that this is a unique one, so what they did is they try to add some elements of. Make it more look like a row home. This is actually in downtown Cincinnati. This was infill, you can see some of the historic buildings adjacent to it, so again, it's not trying to mimic, it kept the first floor height. But this little undulations, this little bump outs, again, was trying to mimic kind of like the row home type of look you might have in a downtown city. So again, like I said.
Go back to that one page, the one that you just jumped over, no, the next one down. Because I noticed that one to the left is very traditional looking, you know what I mean? So keep on going, it's interesting.
So again, it's a lot of brick, metal combinations.
Like that one's there, I do not like, that's too townhousey like.
Yeah,
I don't know, the one to the left.
Which one? You talk about upper
The
left.
upper left, I don't like that
Actually-
two town.
Actually, these are the next one.
Oh,
This
okay,
is where it ends.
okay,
So-
okay.
So
Sorry.
again, it's,
I like that one.
and these are all
So,
for downtown, so.
yeah, my feeling, I want the developer to, I mean, they've gotten some feedback and I feel like I feel like you're in the ballpark of what we're looking for. And, you know, I think we need the public to react to it and then we can talk more about it, right? I mean,
We're gonna have a public. hearing.
yeah, I think we need the public to react to it and then we can,
Decision.
yeah, and then we can, and also there's all their further refinement that can happen.
But I think I think you're on the right track. With taking into account the comments, I think, like I said, at first, I thought 4-story, my God, but when I really see it, it looks different. Like I said, looking at it.
It is
on my phone,
different, and again, when I went through that exercise measuring all the,
that lighter
Yeah,
color
like,
top,
makes a difference.
That and I have to keep up.
yeah, exactly, right.
when I went through measuring all the buildings in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's the
that
thing I
Humphrey-
really.
The Humpert building, Tom, has that's raised.
What's
You know,
that?
The big brick building that's got like 18 units that would
Oh,
sit
yeah.
across the street from the American Legion.
Yeah.
That's really like a tall,
Well, because that's the peak and all that, and then
Yeah,
part of
that's
the
a-
basement is
that's a
exposed,
big
so I agree with you, this is probably gonna be a little bit higher, but I don't know that it's gonna be super
it'd be
higher.
pretty close, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with the grade, in consideration of the
Yes.
grade, you're probably right,
It's
yeah,
actually-
that's just saying, it's probably taller,
I think.
the
that's-
actual building is taller.
Yeah, that
Your
building
building,
is up.
this building would be taller. But it's further up, great.
I think the thing that'll draw attention from the public is that this is different.
It's that building, it's actually will be 5 feet taller.
And real quick, the other element too that was mentioned, how the color changes when you get up to the third floor to try to lessen, and you can see that in these as well. You have the front brick and then the setback, the upper floor, this one as well. So that seemed to be fairly common also that throughout the designs I was finding.
To lessen the impact, but I also really do like if there's certain elements within that. I don't know how much you guys have driven around there, but if there's certain elements that within that neighborhood, that's something you can play with. I think that's a nice way to kind of mold the old with the new, you know, you know.
Really,
But again, I think you're in the right ballpark. The 4-story, I think we're all pretty comfortable with that, and I think you're in the right ballpark.
the exterior, I don't really know, was it your intent to have some sort of brick exterior? Or-
Yeah, if you look at it.
Oh, yeah.
I just wasn't sure if that was brick or
Yeah,
whether that was like a,
definitely.
like a gloss brick. It's looking like brick.
Yeah, so tell us what the different materials are here.
Typically, we will do brick and some sort of fiber cement party, so.
So could you show us on here on this plan, just kind of give us a sense of, if you can sneak out of the,
Yes, I'm behind that. There, so this one we were thinking 2 different color brick,
okay, so that the red and the yellow are both brick. Okay,
this and this are 2 different color brick, just to kind of break up that scale. And then the top, we were thinking fiber cement, some sort of panel system that you could do with like a reveal, it's really clean and minimal. And then in between, we were thinking a lap siding party as well, fiber
Okay.
cement.
and then what's the white, the white part that's like the center you know, the thing that white almost looks, yeah, that one, yeah.
Same material,
Oh,
to
it's,
kind of bring that
okay, gotcha. Okay.
And for the back, pretty much the same.
exact same material. So really, we're looking at, I think, 4 different materials, 2 different bricks, a hardy horizontal and a hardy panel.
So
We really haven't talked about that yet, but in my head, that's kind of what I was thinking.
And so the reason on that 4th floor that you have more of the white or the white color and that different material is to kind of break it up so it doesn't make the building seem as massive as what it actually is.
Yeah,
Okay, interesting. I mean, it makes sense. I just never,
yeah, and it's.
I just never consciously thought about it, you know, but I mean, it makes sense.
Never argue with you on that type. That's why we hire experts to do their jobs.
Okay, any further comments by the commission members or anything from staff at this point?
No, I have nothing else.
So are we supposed to schedule this for public hearing, or does it need to come back to this?
It'll come, so we'll schedule for a public hearing.
Is there far enough along that
Yeah, definitely.
We'll advertise for a public hearing.
When do you think that would be?
Yeah,
Do
some of that.
you have any idea when that might be?
Well, look, it could be as early as September. Next meeting.
Could you have, how long do we have to have?
And we will address the comment again, and including documents from that, so far the comments are
We're giving time for advertising.
Is that right, Dan?
Sorry?
For the further comments, elevator and.
two elevators and a balcony
Balcony.
out front. That-
Is that what you're?
Those are some of our initial, I think those are some of our initial thoughts, and again, nothing's written in stone.
Right,
But I think that's kind of the sense is that I think we talked about the additional elevator. The idea that a stairwell, you have a stairwell that actually is aesthetically appealing I just think that's a smart move. And then what was the other thing? I'm sorry.
About ideas.
The balcony, yes, yeah.
So, just one final comment on parking. So how many parking spaces will there be total?
88.
88%.
So that's 2 per unit?
No.
Yeah.
The formula is different. There is for the 1 bedroom unit, it's 1.5 parking space times 0.25 reduction. It's for the business.
Push down now.
For the 2 unit, it's a 2 parking space per unit times 0.75, not 0.75. So it's less than 2 parking spaces for 2 units and over 1 parking space for 1 unit.
Yeah, I don't wanna get too much in the weeds, but will you, through the condo association, manage that parking in some way?
Absolutely.
As far as the spaces?
The idea is that I see at least 1 space will be dedicated to the unit. And we proposed in 4 ADA spaces and 2 charging stations from the very beginning. We can increase that ratio to any possible ways. Again, it's 3, I believe, minimum required, but we goes 4. And absolutely parking, the way I see it very secure space. I see the cameras will be installed on the parking and on the building, so at least everything will be monitored.
The one other thing we didn't touch on about the layout of the grounds is and we haven't really talked about too much, that little park area in the back, I definitely think we wanna see something that's kind of nice and it's nice for this building, but it's also for the neighborhood.
Would you like to see it landscape in a park style, maybe the walk or playground?
Talking about behind the parking.
Yeah.
And this one.
I'm thinking some landscaping kind of park like,
We are talking about this area.
Winchester.
I don't know that you wanted a big frizzy. Not that you won't have some children that potentially live here, but my gut is that you're gonna have more, I don't think you're gonna have that many, so I think that
It's not around 2 blocks away. so
correct,
that's where
yeah,
they
I think it's more, to me, if I were living in that building, I would want more like a bench, a gazebo, some trees, somewhere I could go out and just kind of sit. if I
Some sort of patio area.
Still seems to be great back there. Sorry,
But teaching area, it wouldn't be flat.
It's not as steep, it looks, and I can flatten it, I can push the grade to one side and we can have, it's on a slope.
Yeah. I would like to see what you can do with that, yes.
I will talk to our landscape architect, and we definitely can propose some shade trees and have a patio and maybe picnic area.
Yes, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
Do you guys agree or?
just passive stuff, not,
Yeah,
I don't even know if it really needs. Like the picnic tables or just nicely landscape where you go out and you can sit there with the trees and be comfortable, because to me. You put a pavilion or picnic tables out there and you're gonna have kids climbing there.
Well, especially depending on how you HOA, people like pets.
Yeah, I was gonna say that walking your dog, this
Yeah,
is what my
they
thought
need a
was,
spot.
if you allow pets, I don't know, but if you allow dogs, that could be the place to walk them.
The good thing is you're not very far from City Park. You can really go.
Not that far, so really,
There's a couple blocks.
that's where you park.
So we will just landscape it nicely, put in some kind of shade trees, and if you want to see some benches, we can have.
I think it also kind of provides a, not like a block to the neighborhood, but kind of like a transition.
Transition,
From
yeah.
that to the,
I do have a question about the park. Okay, you said the 84 spaces, correct?
Yes, sir.
That does not include the spaces out in front along Green Street.
No.
So they're not
That
counted.
is separate. It's-
That's about
in reality, you're having more space.
You get 10 more, there's 10 more spaces on the street.
So
It's not counted.
so there'd be plenty of parking for visitors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people park
It's
down along there now.
strictly on-site parking space.
And that was kind of the thought there. I didn't know if that would create waves with the surrounding community if we
What's
took
that?
out those spaces.
On the, in front? There, I don't think they're.
That's-
The space is kind of.
I think it's nice to have the spaces, because I think it makes it feel, I think it makes it feel more like a downtown area.
I don't think they're gonna have a lot of good places.
No, there's not much. Very seldom cars parked there.
No.
I like the idea, because if I lived in one of the ground floor ones,
That's right there.
Swing in.
I would park right there, walk right.
Seriously.
We have to put a sign up. We have to pass legislation.
Reserve parking.
Reserve for, no. Okay, all right. So, hearing no further comments, you guys have the
Thank you so much for your time.
direction and we look forward to the public hearing and hearing what the people have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, good job.
And yeah, and thank you for all the, because it's obviously you guys put some thought into it, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Alright. Next is the Willow.
We take a quick little, 3 minutes, that gives them a chance to kind of clean up, and, yeah.
Short recess.
In this one, we have two different things. We have the actual layout and then the architecture to discuss.
Yes.
So, any
Your-
comments from you? Mark?
Yes.
I think I think it's a little bit easier if we just. Cause we don't have handouts for these for you, but this is what was provided. We'll talk about the layout first. So let me see, is that,
This is option.
Do you have the original one, just so everybody can see what the original one looked like?
You just read my mind, but I was thinking the same one.
I can label this option.
Option 2. Okay, that's option 3. Option 3.
Okay, so I don't have a close up. So the original one is this one.
Yeah, I remember not liking it. Yeah, that's
That
right.
line like that, it's kind of stuck there in the center.
Yeah,
Felt really crowded.
it felt really crowded, that's right. Yeah, it's that one, that's the one we didn't like.
So this is the original. Some of the issues were trying to get a little bit more open space and moving the alignment and location of the buildings was discussed. So
Was that 40 units, that was 40 units?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay,
So the other element too with this one, this zoning district, the PD zoning district does require the limitation of how many units can be in each stick. So
Right.
they had the other element too, not only the location, but also breaking up the sticks to meet that
Like 6 in
requirement.
a row, right?
So the applicant has proposed 2 new options. So we'll call this option 2. So you can start seeing the break up the units. And we get a larger space here. As you recall, there used to be a building here.
Yes.
And that essentially, I'm guessing, shifted back here, and I'm sure Mark.
that looks much
Explain a
better.
little bit more, and then option 3. Again, the building's broken up, but they're pushed back and get a much larger green space in the center of the development.
But the green space is in front of some of the some of the units.
Correct. And it would be here too, say the green space in front of these,
Oh, wow.
Yes.
and then
The other one.
this one, you get more green
Right,
space.
so
Yeah,
Now
I think better.
Now,
You really, I like the first one better.
The space gives around it more people.
and if you see for parking, the units themselves have these rear garages, so each unit has a parking space in a garage space. And then you have additional overflow parking throughout the development and along the street. The other thing too, there were, the planning commission had concerns with parking up in the front.
Yes, didn't like
So you
that.
can see that was removed as well.
Wanted more trees like along that
Yes,
road
yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can I ask the applicant something though? Cause I think we have different opinions of which version we like. Can you walk us through the pros and cons of each version, Marty? From your standpoint?
Yes, probably.
Okay,
When you look at this one here, obviously the ground slopes from here generally down in the direction of
It's
140
goes
or
down.
call it
uh-huh,
where the Sunoco station is and stuff like that. So predominantly it falls that way. We know, the surrounding areas they have some 2-story units over in this area here. We have like 1.5 to 2-story units in here. We looked at try to compare them a little bit to a townhouse. Townhouses, these are for rentals. And that's why this is appealing. This would satisfy the rental side. Townhouses, most of the time, they are for sale. And what the market dictates with those is, garages, which they would go on the first slab, and then 2 stories over top of that, which basically it makes it a 3-story building. And then you have your gable roof, and when I calculate this 2/2 unit and with a flatter roof, because we did flatten to keep the architecture down, you're looking very similar within about 3 feet or 5 feet of height differential. If you did a townhouse community versus what we're proposing.
what my question was actually the layout of the 2 different, okay.
This is.
You're going, okay, sorry.
So depending on, as these step down, this building, these two buildings, and they all step down. They keep going down in elevation, even on the ones here. The other layout pushes these buildings closer to the existing properties in the back. Not that probably the 50-foot difference makes a huge difference in the field. When you look at a building, it's, but we can work with either one. The other unit or the other layout with the linear type open space.
Yeah, go to that one, Mark.
We thought we'd be able to do like a dog park area here and then one down in this location here, and then keep the open space more centralized for people, but it would give people a proximity to take the dogs right across, like right in the general vicinity of their units. The other one, these people would have to walk down the road a little further to get to the open space area. Or perhaps we can try to squeeze one in, but then one of them's gonna be like right there.
In that layout, what would happen to the open spaces behind those units?
Well, there's gonna be stormwater management.
Okay.
There's stormwater management in this location, there's actually these areas as we did, and again, the mass was, you didn't want. The 8 units were too much, and even the code, obviously, we were trying to push that. We went ahead and took what everybody said and went ahead and created 6 maximum. So the buildings are smaller than what they were, in general, but the stormwater, obviously, we have to redo, but we did not regrade the property, redo the stormwater until we get, obviously, some sort of consensus with the actual layout, because nowadays, the money and time spent on design.
Which layout do you guys prefer?
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Why?
I like the point of setting up little ballpark areas in each location, down in this corner here, where it's central proximity, and this area here to where people, it's just closer when you're thinking about that. Look at our rentals, so I don't know how many pets or what's gonna be allowed, that kind of thing, so, if that's allowed, I think that's all our ballpark area, but, I'm either one. Again, though, this creates the green space in front, so any type of, what we do here is gonna be in our people's front yards.
Well, one thing about that layout though, also, that makes it feel a little more open. Instead of having those 4 buildings facing right on top of each other.
Yes, these two.
That needs a little bit more space between, needs a little bit more open. And I think it would be a more pleasant,
It softens the layout.
yes, it does.
Putting the space in the front, keeping the open space in the back, it would just end up.
Let's call this, this is this is alternate,
2, this is option 2.
and that's, okay, so this is option 1, or?
Option 1 was the original.
Okay, so this is option 2, and then,
2, 3.
oh, okay, so this is option 3, so you like option 3?
I think it opens it up a little bit, it doesn't make it, even though it's gonna be dense, a good number of units in a fairly small spot. But by opening it up a little bit, it's gonna make it feel less dense, it's gonna.
And what would what would the space back there be used for?
What space you're referring to?
If
So about this space here.
you went with that, it becomes kind of like,
I
it's
don't mean,
almost like getting out of the way.
Well, we're gonna have stormwater.
I got that.
And obviously landscaping. We would soften that obviously with screening and everything else, from the property away from the the projects themselves, the existing community itself.
So now if you go to option 3, it'll just be still stormwater management and there'll be landscape on the other side of those parking spaces.
That's correct.
does anyone in this room like option?
I like option 3.
Wait, no, wait, listen, I'm totally fine, it's not like, this is not a death match issue. I'm totally fine, it's just interesting, on my initial reaction, I like option 2 better. But I'm totally fine.
I kind of like I like the aspect of walking out of your front door and having green, instead of walking out directly to a row of cars. That's what I like that. It's a different product. It's different.
It is.
Would get you off of Main Street and put you back here. It kind of gives a different feel. life and living.
Yeah,
through all the
it's more
landscapes.
space.
I think it's more usable space.
I think so.
So,
Hands all.
yes. Is.
We can get one of these. You can buy one of these then.
Two options, I couldn't believe that you weren't losing units. It's actually the same number of units, it's just your.
They were able to put it in that one corner, which is great.
Right.
Yeah.
Literally, if you took these two buildings and pushed them up against the street, you had the same.
If you would turn that building a little bit more, then I might feel differently, but I think the way it lays it, the way those two buildings lay out, you're not really
It's gentle.
setting it up where you're looking at somebody's. You don't have people looking at each other, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Both of these are a massive improvement
Oh, my God.
over the first version, yes.
Yes.
So is the roadway, is the second access, is that gonna fly?
We believe so. I mean, yeah, which one?
This
This one here.
The one that comes off the one that comes off of Sutherland.
And what happens is we looked at, on the old plan, of course, but this is really the same. We looked at basically, this gentleman here, his driveway will be unaffected. So what he has today, he'll have tomorrow. This person here parks at the end of the gravel culvert or paving, which is kind of dilapidated, but as far as the paving, it's not in great shape, but he parks out here, so he doesn't really park.
So you're gonna make him a parking space when you do the road.
We'll put a parking pattern in his yard, that kind of thing. And then we would just continue it on and it should all blend in pretty well.
Driveway is a loophole around the building, so.
I'm sorry.
I'm seeing it as it coming out of Pennsylvania, it does loop all the way back onto itself.
Yeah, it does.
On
Yeah, this is the main.
both
drag
sides of that
road,
cliff.
And then.
That's
it
great,
loops
goes all
around.
the way around.
The only one that's basically is this one here, which is,
Right.
which will leave enough for people to come out and turn and, turn around and all.
But I mean, it's.
But it's only those units.
What's in that corner?
What, this corner here?
Yeah.
That's gonna be stormwater management.
That's the lowest point, that's gonna be stormwater management.
Marty, the grade you say goes from the Pennsylvania Avenue, goes down that way. What about coming the other direction? Which way is the grade going? Like,
You mean from one to forty?
North to south.
yeah,
Sullivan.
from Sullivan, yes.
This area here falls that way.
So those units over there are higher than the units down there.
These units are higher than these, that's correct. There's right in here, there's,
No, well, I meant, are these units at a higher elevation than these units? Is that the way the word
they
grades?
are
Okay,
a
okay,
little higher,
yeah,
yes.
140, like.
just curious.
And these will be the lowest, right? And these will be the
Like with that,
lowest elevation. Yep.
having them back up to 140, I mean, though it's busy highway. I mean, the rental units, they're not. They're not gonna be owned, so. It's not gonna affect the sale of as much as them being rented.
I think staff would be asking for some noise attenuation.
Yeah.
That's fine,
Better,
I'm
better
saying.
material on the windows, things like that, that would help out.
And that's fine, like I say, to me, from a rental standpoint, ownership standpoint. Yeah, I'd like to be up at 140 if I owned it.
Sure.
No, but if it's a rental unit, I don't think it matters as much.
I think the kind of layout with the parking things behind. And not like a parking lot in the front is a little bit different here. But I can't think of any place like that.
Well, I think it also makes it more, when you do pull in there, I think it does make it more aesthetically appealing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and having the garages in a lot of them too, cars gonna be,
Every unit has one.
so like I say, I mean, that,
People will love that,
eliminates a lot of the parking issues you're gonna have.
How many units are there?
40.
40.
What will they rent for?
Wow.
Any idea?
I don't know.
What are they?
Way too much.
2, 3 bedroom, what are they gonna be?
I believe they're 2 bedrooms. Both
Two
are
bedrooms,
2 bedrooms.
So they'll rent for a good deal.
1,500.
It'll be more than 1,500, my friend, it's a day.
Mostly.
Yeah.
For what?
When I was thinking of selling my house, I was looking at 2 or 3 bedroom apartments and it was like, no way. I mean, they were talking.
It would surprise me, dollars easily pushing $2,000 by the time you're through with a garage, 2 bedrooms, $2,000.
Everybody spoke with the college, and the college is certainly interested in. the rental.
Oh, they'll fill them in.
Oh, it's pretty good location.
Oh, definitely.
I can tell.
So the will of the planning commission is,
Not like in this.
is this a third
Yeah,
alternate?
that's my
That's
three.
okay. Alternate 3, okay,
But, you know, good landscaping, good design,
yes.
not some. Has to be aesthetically pleasing construction and layout.
Yeah, but I do like it.
That makes the planning director happy too, because that was his favorite one of the 2
You know, the
buildings.
design was the designers too, because when you start looking at the elevations, he used option 3 so you have these cross sections.
Oh,
Kind of, he didn't give cross sections for the other 2 options.
well, that's because he liked this option better, apparently.
So if you follow these lines, 1, 2, 1 is vertical, 2, and then 3 cutting through the buildings. Will take you down to, you start getting an idea of
That's not that bad.
the
It's not that bad.
impact it has to adjacent, and Marty, if you can point out where. we
Yeah,
are.
explain what we're looking at, Marty, here.
If you look at section 1, if you go back to
Yeah,
the
so
plan
section-
here, and I'll show you it. Section 1 is this one.
I'm looking that way, okay,
You're basically, you're looking at.
gotcha, okay, go back, yeah.
You're seeing that section, so you're seeing basically these buildings, the distance where these buildings are, and. We
Okay, go back to go back to, yeah,
Yeah. So you'll see the distance and all that as it follows its way down all the way to the bottom. Same with section 2 and 3.
because of what's towards the street,
So
that's a lot
so this is
higher.
Pennsylvania, this is 140. These are those ones all the way in the back, these are the 2 sticks with the green in front of it.
Correct.
Given the elevation of Pleasant,
Show me the other lines that you have,
Pennsylvania Avenue to Silver
where's
Road.
2?
2 is here.
2 is
2 is here, so
coming
I'm
up here.
looking from Sullivan back.
Sullivan.
Yeah, okay.
And you're looking,
Okay, go back
basically,
to
you're
that.
looking that way.
Yeah, okay, so Sullivan Road, go down, is there,
Sullivan
right?
Avenue.
Sullivan,
So you have Sullivan Road,
uh-huh,
You know, Sullivan.
you have Sullivan Avenue, and then you have your, that one structure there that goes through and then into the property. And then the 2 other units, and if you go to, you'll see them,
So these 2 right here are these 2.
that's correct. And this building here and this building here.
Yeah, then
You're
how
looking
do
at-
people even get back to those
Building is here.
properties, is there some kind of,
Where's it?
There's a private drive, I think.
oh, okay.
First time I went on the site, I was
And then
surprised
3 is
how
140?
flat it was.
Here's all 140.
Yeah, here's.
Oh,
right
okay,
through all
so
these.
that's one. Yeah, sorry. Okay,
And again, you're going through the one on the upper side, you're going through that building to see that out to Pennsylvania Avenue roughly. And then right on down as it steps down.
so the grade helps you. Your grade helps you.
It does.
Yeah. Marty, what will your stormwater facilities look like?
They're gonna be bio retention facilities, they'll be, some of them are gonna be about 1.5 feet deep. They will have, basically some aquatic plants and trees, they'll be landscaped. Actually, on the attractive side, they're more attractive than having.
It's not gonna be like a pond with a friggin' fence around it, right?
It is not. Good. Yeah,
That's
Oh.
good.
there will be, there's one quantity facility that will probably be at the low end. There might be a small quantity facility still at the upper end, but, there's nothing large. We do, sometimes we'll do submerged gravel wetlands. And that accommodates some of the quantity. Believe it or not, the bio facilities, if you just did bio facilities, basically you have to have a facility every 20,000 square feet of property. Whether you're disturbing it or not, it's drainage area. So the only thing you can really do is you do some of your vegetated wetlands or your submerged gravel wetlands to, you increase the size and increase the capacity of what you're treating for quality and stuff. And not have those, you know, I mean, you could end up with a lot of biofacilities if you just went in that direction. But
So who is the applicant in this case?
it would be under Verdant Development, it's Tom Potts, he's out of Frederick. The property owner is Dave
So
Bollinger.
he's a contract purchaser from.
From Dave Bollinger, that's right.
How many acres?
I don't,
Why do I think five?
Well, no, I think it comes out to, it's PD 9 and there's 40. So it's like 4.2 or 4.5 acres. There was no wetlands, there was just a little bit, the 25% slopes, I think there was one little section. The density calculation right there,
1.7.
you were close.
Yeah, that definitely better be, open as much as possible.
Any further comments,
about the layout.
Mr. Huff? Lindsay?
About the layout, no, but we're gonna talk about elevations there too, right?
Yeah. Talk about anything?
Yeah. I think we put this one to bed.
Okay.
You guys like the one I don't want. That's one. It's fine.
And then, okay, so then the architecture. And this hasn't changed, this was provided in the first packet, first round.
So,
And I don't know what I'm sorry, Tom, go ahead.
so the level 1 and 2 is a unit, and then 3 and 4 is another unit.
That's correct.
Yeah, so this right
But
here.
we're only gonna have 6, we're not gonna have 4 across, we're only gonna have 3 across.
That's correct.
Okay,
So this is one unit, and then this box is the second unit.
So how do you access levels 3 and 4?
Steps.
So when you enter in here, you have a door right here, you kind of see it. Essentially, that would go into the first floor, and then a door back here that takes stairs up
I got
to
it.
this level.
Okay.
So you walk this little vestibule area or whatever, this little alcove, and then you'll have two doors right there.
And what I was gonna say is just, as far as architecture goes, I mean, we are certainly, the roof has been flattened slightly, instead of an 812, I think it was down to like a 4 or 512 roof, just to give control of the heights more. These dormers and stuff like that are act as skylights on that second floor where it had vaulted ceilings, that kind of thing. As far as finishes, I mean, whether it's brick, stone, hardy plank, vinyl, this has got a little bit of brick, vinyl, and then it's got some vinyl panels on these little white stick out areas that just change the look of that. But you can see it sort of have some picture framing molding around, but we're certainly flexible as we go through the process.
so I think especially before you go to public hearing, my gut is, I think you wanna show some that show what a 6 looks like. You know what I mean? Because when you look at this, it seems really big, and I think that's gonna throw people off. What does everybody think about the actual elevations itself, like?
I wanna, if I could show you some examples, so, again, this is your typical suburban, we talked about this last time. This is the rear, I'm one that if you're gonna have it nice in the front, it should be 4-sided architecture. This is what is being viewed by the residences around it. I'm not crazy about this, just flat, all vinyl siding type of approach, but so again, let me just, how do I get out of here?
What's the level 3 there? I'm just trying, there was like a.
Porch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. I like
Yeah.
that.
So,
You have to see the chair. You can share that.
and then where's mine at?
My brother used to live in a condo down in Laurel, it was similar.
Okay.
Straight. No, next to
Okay, so I did the same thing, where I looked around, I like more the urban, more the, again, nicer looking. Even though it's not really downtown, this is the first time we're gonna have this product. I also like more the flat roof style. It cuts down the height, obviously, so I just provided some examples. So these weren't the apartments, these are the 2/2 examples that I found. Leesburg area, which is close to downtown, but not exactly downtown. I think this might be Alexandria. So again, I tried to look at more downtown areas that you have these redevelopments. Yeah, I'm, and this is my own personal view, I just like this might be a little too urban,
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
but I still.
Don't know if I'm ready to push that yet.
I still like the flat roof style, so I'm more liking. Again, I like the flat roof because again, it drops the height down, and this is the first time we're getting this 2/2 product in. But that's just me, this is just my own personal view.
So when we go back to their drawings, 'cause I have a question.
Well, it's not so much flat roofs per se, I think even on the other project, they had a where water would drain off.
Yeah, but it makes it
But
flat.
it's not like
Yeah.
it's not a pitch.
It's not the pitch, so again, and these have uniqueness of these, you can have like a little balcony, a little space above from the top of the roof as well. That's what these do.
I like
So
that.
you add the top floor adds a little upstairs, yeah, rooftop type of thing.
And in Leesburg, that would be $5,000 a month.
Yeah, so they're pretty, yeah, so let me get back to.
So can I ask I guess a question of my fellow, I just. How I'm looking at this, and I'm just curious what you guys think, like. To me, this location is very different than the Green Street one. Because to me, like whoever's living here isn't walking downtown, it's just too far away. And it feels more, it doesn't feel downtown to me, it feels more, a little bit more, frankly, a little bit more suburban, you know what I mean? Because it's not downtown. So. I understand what Mark is saying, and I don't necessarily object to what he's saying, but like, this would bother me very much so on Green Street.
Oh, absolutely.
But it doesn't bother me as much at this location. But I'm not saying that Mark's comments are invalid either, so I'm just kind of curious what you guys think.
No, I was playing off also the college, which has apartments and dorms, so you do have this massing around, and that is more the flat roof brick style, so again, it is. I tend to, I think this is walkable, I think you can have a straight shot down, you have the big park right nearby, and it gives
You think
you
it's
further
walkable?
down to downtown, I think this is walkable to
I mean,
downtown.
Monroe
That would be
Avenue,
I like.
Monroe Street, you walk right down Sullivan Avenue to Monroe, is it Monroe? And then you make a left, you're right past West Middle, and you're down there where all the shopping centers are.
Not exactly, it's once again, it's butting up against the commercial area. 140, you got.
So what do you guys, do you like the kind of vibe that Mark is?
I like those. Really, I think they're appropriate for each space.
I think that fits in. I think it's fine.
So
The roof's a little weird with the little square
I'm
things.
thinking of the dormers up there, what,
The pointy thing.
Are they really-
the square things.
are they just there for aesthetics?
They're actually, those dormers acted more like a skylight, they're open, you'll have your ceilings open, so if you're in the living space, you can see out so it's a higher ceiling in that location.
Can you show those, like, Mark, those and yours side by side, just to kind of give us is there any way you can do that?
Okay. Yes.
Cause I think they need a sense of direction from us, and that's,
So what we'll do just for a moment, this is
Yeah.
for you guys to view.
okay.
I think you have to consider the location. And while I like what the stuff that Mark showed, I'm not sure per se that.
I like what he has.
But I'm looking exactly, we talked about the first one, this is the product that's going in, that redevelopment starts happening around it, you get higher, you get.
Can you zoom in?
So- this is the first time we get this product. I do think it's still downtown, and if this is coming the first one, doesn't Westminster deserve top of the line? And that's what we keep pushing, best architecture possible. And again, you do look at the adjacent properties, these small single houses that could certainly be purchased up and consolidated, and this whole concept further developed.
So I don't like the one to the left. That one doesn't, I like the one to the right.
I don't like that.
Go to the other ones. You don't like that one. I like that one.
I like the one he has better than the other stuff for where it is. There's some houses over there. I think it fits in the houses better.
I think these are a little too urban. I like more the brick ones that give a little bit more nicer. And again, I'm also four-sided. It's the rear of the proposed ones they do that really.
Yeah, let's get to that in a minute. So what does the planning commission feel as a whole? Linda, you're saying that you like what the
I think it
applicant has
fits in the
proposed
neighborhood
better.
It's, I mean, I walked around the neighborhood and.
What do you,
Control.
what do you guys think? I think Mark prefers something more like that.
Well, and for me, if this is acceptable, you have to carry that brick, whatever is extending to the side and around the back.
Well, yeah, no, that's a different story. Just
Yeah,
focus on the
yeah,
front right
yeah.
now. We can come back to the second thing.
But again,
Just focus on this part. What, Jay and Tom?
To me, I like the one on the bottom right hand side.
That's what I.
that's theirs.
That's similar to what they've proposed though.
Well, that is what they proposed. That's why I'm asking you.
No, this is theirs. No, this is, I'm sorry, this is theirs. This is what they're proposing right here.
This is, and this is a suggestion that
Dan
Mark's
has to see them next to each other. I'm not saying you have to pick these. I just like more the more.
They're a
brick,
different
the
vibe,
flat
that's what I
roof,
was trying
and
to
everything
explain,
else.
but you guys, you're fine with the.
For that area, I think that one on the very bottom right fits in better.
I know how, now I know how Dan feels in the layout.
I think there's two things to be said. First
I
of
like
all,
option 2 now.
they're totally different areas. And secondly, there's a difference between rentals and condominiums,
Yeah, absolutely.
totally different.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And these could become ownership. Nothing stops it as a two
I
of two
understood
to
it
go
could be
to
set up
ownership.
as a condo. I understand
Yeah.
that, but that's not the intent. The
Yeah.
intent is it will be.
I do feel like it's hard and it's very touchy feely, but like the ones that Mark is showing over there do feel more downtown like. And this feels more suburban and but it just depends on what you consider this, and I think this is kind of borderline. You say it's walkable, which makes it more downtown. I kind of initially felt suburban like to me, but I just.
But there's houses out there. That fits in better with the houses out there.
Okay.
But you're
Architecturally wise, it does.
you're going back an entrance road quite a distance, or you're coming off of Sullivan quite a distance. And this is kind of stuck back behind everything. This is not something that's like we're gonna drive past every day. The only people gonna drive past it every day are the ones that live there.
It's an highway.
You understand?
And I'm
Yeah,
40,
That's the
but
big
not gonna
difference. Green
care.
Street, everybody's gonna go past it. I'm not saying Mark's not right, but just understand this is kind of like hidden back.
You feel like this is more homey, what the
Yes.
applicant is proposing,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's more residential to me.
more
Even
residential,
though it's,
okay.
it's close to downtown, I wouldn't consider downtown.
Yeah.
It's close, it's walkable, but, and especially if there are a lot of college kids are gonna be in there. But it's still more single family homes in that area than anything.
Okay.
Yes.
So I just think that style
I
is
just,
better.
well, this way they have a sense of direction, you know what I mean? So I will say, can you go back to the ones that the applicant had?
Go to the Google Chrome.
And I do think
Up
that
to
we,
the-
when you look at that architecture, there's, as far as putting some different types of textures, the finishes.
I was just gonna say that. You have to work on color a little bit.
I mean, if you take that same architecture, and you take some of the colors that Mark had on his, and let's say, you got rid of the dormers, and you flattened the roof out a little further,
Yes.
and you did something there, you might see where there's a whole corner unit, one of the units is completely brick, and it's a darker brick or whatever.
Yeah.
You can, and of course. Understand, and, you know, what Mark's talking about, the four-sided.
Yeah, that's, something has to be done with that.
That looks like,
To
I'm not.
break that up.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit,
but you could do your skylight, even if you didn't use the dormers, even the flat roof, you could still, you could skylight. You could still build the skylight. I think that skylight idea is pretty cool, but.
Those
Yeah,
look
just that
funny,
back
there's
needs to
something,
be done.
they just look odd. It looks like somebody just popped them up.
so it feels like what we're telling him is we're fine with this general sense of direction, but we also think Mark has some validity and like, this needs something, it needs something.
My thought is, you know, right now, knowing that. If the consensus is the 4 stories, okay, whether it has a flat roof, gable roof, how we finish. The sides off, we can certainly work with the city and all, to get the materials like it, to get the sides, you know, because obviously you can't, I mean, something. To sit there and do masonry on the entire side, but to sit there and break it up, you can certainly do that.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't necessarily be
There's
masonry all around, it just
And-
needs to be
And
broken up
the
some.
trailers that are in the front, different various things can be taken to the back
Yeah,
around the windows and the various areas, so there's opportunity there.
Like I say, you don't necessarily take the brick all around, but you can do the brick colors in the back and
Right.
split it up a little bit.
what you,
I think that's what,
yeah, what you
I agree with
typically
you,
do,
those
yeah.
things are horrendous
You
looking.
typically, at least at some point, you carry just. This level would be a brick
Yeah,
or
the garage.
part of-
you-
part of it, and then this is. Changed up a little bit more to be a little more consistent with this.
Colors.
If you have shutters in the front of this one, you should have shutters in the back. If you have, you know, wider trim around the window on this facade, it should be wider trim of the window. So it's equal, it's consistent.
Consistent all the way around.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright. Any more comments, and anything from Dave or Marty?
Are we then ready for public hearing for this one too, or? do you-
Well, I just want to make sure that where we are, we're ready to go forward with the hearing.
I think they have a good idea of what we'd like to see.
I think the
And
biggest,
if they make those corrections, we'll see why we can get a public hearing.
I would definitely, I think before you go to public hearing, I think we'll leave it up because we're not, no one's making any kind of decision. But I think I would definitely show some different elevations of
yes,
like just 6 units.
Yep.
Because otherwise, I think it makes it seem much more giant than what it is. And maybe try to incorporate a little, you know, a little bit of what Mark was saying, because that might help for the public to be able to react to.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna go back and make the adjustments to take the unit, the 2 units off to get from 8 to 6. We might as well just go ahead and just adjust the facades a little bit, take into consideration what we saw. And maybe have a couple different options just of what could be there. It's the same unit, it's just how, it, you know, the finishes on what it looks like.
And I think it's really helpful for the public when you have this public hearing. You know, even with your layout, you're gonna have it like, you know, the green, you know, but make a color
Absolutely.
and
Oh, yeah.
kind of show the land. Just to kind of give people a good sense, because, you know, visuals are everything.
Everything, correct.
I think that's what they're planning on, as Marty mentioned earlier, you don't want to spend the money with the architect and engineering. The big question is, are we comfortable with the 4 stories? Are we comfortable with this product? Because it is new. And as Dan's pointed out, I think that's, now they can move forward, put that money towards it and come back with a nicer product at the public hearing. Yeah.
Utilizing the new layout and all that,
Yeah.
landscape it. And I'll get more with our client to talk about some of the specifics on the amenities and all that, because that should all be shown as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a sales tool, call it, but.
Yeah.
Yep.
alright, so.
Do we have to make a motion to?
No motions.
We don't.
No motion, so, I mean, the first one, the Green Street one, I think the architecture, I think that's ready to move forward, and we'll try to get that in September. I think we'll have to wait unless you can turn this around quickly and get information back to us with new drawings and new architecture. So I think with this product or this application, once we get that from the applicant, we'll immediately advertise for the next available planning commission meeting.
So you're thinking the first one in September, then this one in October?
Maybe October, yeah.
Right.
Let me, I'll work with Mike and then work with Mark on that,
Right.
because he's gonna get the architect and, get them involved and.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've given you a good sense of direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think having 2 different meetings is a better idea than having.
Yeah, we're not having, yeah,
Yeah.
you're not doing anyone any favors.
I think we're gonna have a public out for both of these, so,
Yeah.
so, and we may be holding this at 45 West Main Street, public hearings if we're expecting a larger group of people.
I think we should just plan on having, because even if we don't, I just think it's better to be prepared, because
I
we don't
agree.
wanna be, you're just not gonna know.
What is that? You said 45 West?
The administrative offices, the basement is we have a large
Bill County.
conference room in the basement that can take more people.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
I can walk,
We can walk.
Okay.
maybe we'll have to bring in genie birds, we'll have something to eat. Might be a long night.
I have a planning commission dinner.
So anything further?
I have nothing
Any
else.
commission members, any further comments? All right, hearing none, without objection, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mark, I really